wellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Julie Tenner.
And I'm Bridget Wood. And today we're talking the slow hustle. And this has really come about because as I prepared, I suppose, shift gears and go on maternity leave and, obviously have another baby, I think, okay, how can I do that and have the presence for that part of my life at the same time as I can continue to grow my businesses, and really invest in those. And I guess conventional wisdom says, oh, you can't, you just can't. But I'm kind of like, yeah, but I'm not one for conventional wisdom. I kind of want to challenge that a bit. And then I ask myself, okay, well, why is that? What's my attachment to all of these things? And to be truthful, they're kind of an extension of myself. They're part of me becoming more of myself and me being in service in areas that are most inspiring to me. And why I'm talking the slow hustle is that idea that I think if you're in an entrepreneurial space or if you're in this constant desire to grow space in yourself and you're listening to all of the outside opinions around business and entrepreneurship and being your best self and getting inspired
And hustling.
Right? Just going. The doing. I just think that it's a recipe for burnout. And I just wonder, does it have to be that way? Because we talk a lot about on the podcast this idea of, we are, our higher mind, our core self, our reason for being here is to grow in every area of life. There are 7 areas of life. So we've got spiritual, mental, vocational, physical, financial, family, and social. So we are, whether we do it well or not, we are going to be we will be pulled towards awakening in every area. Obviously if we don't feel like we've connected with our friends for a while, something will happen and we'll just want to go and do that for a bit. Or if our finances are falling by the wayside, we'll just know that we need to focus on that. I found myself asking, is there a way to keep it all in balance? Because, you read some stuff and it says, oh, yeah, we've just got to choose 3 things, work, family, and eating right. And you just got to let everything else go in order to succeed, in inverted commas. But I just question, does it have to be like that? Can you not, prioritise your life in such a way that you can still keep all of those parts going? What do you think?
I don't know. That's a really tough question, Bridget, honestly. I'm still not totally clear on, I suppose for me, first off, really to do this, there's the 7 areas, but you've got to be really clear on what your top 3 are, I think, in terms of what your greatest values are, which in turn really say, when you pursue those 3 areas, you live the most meaningful, inspired, happy life that you can possibly live. So whilst you are always being called to own all 7 areas, right, like me with the financial area, which I would say is probably the area we talked about as least empowered in, now I'm really being called to do that. So I can see absolutely the purpose in being empowered across all 7, and generally the people that have really got it nailed are really key people of influence in this world, right? Yeah. But I think you've got to get really clear on what your top 3 are. And for me, that's obviously, family is probably my top. And then it would be, what am I doing with my career and personal growth, self stuff? And sometimes I do really find that a difficult tussle between hustling for a business and hustling for a particular family vibe. And I do find that's which I think it is for every woman who's in that situation. And I do feel like there is there is some crossover between when I'm hugely inspired in my business. Generally, I'm more fulfilled and energized, which then flows out into my family. But sometimes the business can become so consuming, I find myself wanting to retreat away from my family and to have space to do that. Which then is counterproductive because then they're going to display behaviours to call me back into it.
Yes, yeah.
So when I'm really killing it as a mum and I'm feeling totally on top of nutritional meals and snacks and lunch boxes and we're all vibing really well and I've got space to hear each of my kids' emotional issues throughout every single day, then I probably haven't had much space for business. So for me, I don't know that you can ever rock both of those really well. I think it's a seasonal thing for each of them. And my idea is that I can flip between the two in a fluid way that allows me the greatest inspiration and most meaningful life for me. So when I'm feeling really connected to my family, that fuels my business. And when I'm feeling really inspired and connected by my business, that fuels my family. And that it's kind of an energetic give and take rather than being a hustle either one way.
And that's the key, I think, because I think that we are socialised to see that they are separate and they need to remain separate. And that's a paradigm in which we culture ourselves.
Well, the main point is we never see how the thing serves the other thing.
Yes, that's right, yeah. But yet, if you can go, wow, okay, I can see how this day out with my family is really going to serve my inspiration in my business, or this time of really focusing on my business is in fact going to really inject, creativity or, fulfillment into my family life, as opposed to that wrestle of feeling like they're taking away from each other.
So this for me, yes, exactly, is exactly the definition between the hard hustle and the slow hustle. Is this concept of almost like feminine and masculine, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the hustle is, out there, social media, plugging away, doing your next thing, publishing, and always, even when you're burnt out and it feels like the last thing you ought to do, you push yourself to do it.
Yeah.
Versus the feminine, which is very much led by where that season of inspiration is taking you and almost following that trickling stream, knowing that when you immerse yourself in it, not running away from things, but when you're feeling called to deal with the challenge within your family, or called and inspired to deal with the challenge within your business or a particular blog or a particular facet of that in fact almost you can be, in terms of productivity, like if I think about it, if I'm really inspired and I follow that flow, the productivity I can get done in 45 minutes far outweighs 6 hours on another day. And I found this really interesting as well. I was saying this, I think even to you, Bridget, last week, was I had this concept in my head that I couldn't really hustle my business up to the level I wanted it until my youngest was in school and I had all 3 kids in school, and then, life would be easy, which of course it isn't, but let's just go with that perception for now. And I was saying to you, I realised I orchestrated that every Thursday my mother and mother-in-law alternate having my youngest so that I'm child-free during the school hours. And I was like, man, I'm going to smash out this book in that time and la la la. And yet I am far more productive when I'm a full-time stay-at-home mum and I have to hustle between 5 and 7 in the morning. And then again for half an hour in the middle of the day when my daughter's having, a rest. And then again a couple of hours when my kids are in bed or I've only got an hour. Let me tell you, the productivity that I get done by following that inspiration and managing my checklist far exceeds anything I ever get done on that whole Thursday.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you're creating a massive amount of intention around your use of that time, and you're also, because you don't have much time, getting really clear on what the absolute key areas of importance are, as opposed to, the emails that might come in or the random stuff on the periphery that makes you feel like you've done stuff because you've been busy, but it's not actually getting you the results you're clearly out to get. Because that's the difference.
And it's a slow hustle versus fast hustle. And you and I have spoken about this, is, hustling to excel yourself and your business doesn't have to look like pushing your product and your business in every facet that you can. Hustling to excel yourself and your business can be a very inward process of sorting out the blocks and the stuff you have going on internally, which then almost produces on the other end of that like this fuel and inspiration that takes you where you need it to go anyway. So that for me is the slow hustle. If I really don't have the space for this and this and this, but I know I'm not blanket uninspired. I recognise my inspiration is moving in other areas. To some extent I follow that. So in writing my book, I haven't just started at chapter 1 and worked my way through to chapter 9. I've sat down with book time and gone, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling seduction. I'm writing that seduction chapter.
Yeah.
What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling scientific nutrition. I'm writing that chapter right now. And I go back and I look at what I've written in those moments of inspiration. No way could I sit down now and write that stuff.
And force yourself to do it.
Yeah, but it just wouldn't come to me.
Yeah, because to do that, you're having to tap into your inner well of inspiration that doesn't always come on tap.
No, but this is the difference between fast and slow hustle, isn't it? Between the masculine and the feminine versions of productivity. Is the feminine looks from the outside masculine perspective as unproductive.
Yeah.
But how productive is that deeper journey? Because I bet you either you get to the other side or that end of the race quicker, or at the same time but with greater learning.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because it really challenges that idea that, you have to be visible all the time, or you have to be doing. I had this conversation with a friend where I said, that I was reading an article about the most sort of successful people or highly influential people devote hours of their day just for thinking. And she was like, oh, no, I don't know any business owners who can do that. But I really felt like, yeah, but...
I do, and the other thing, they all exercise early in the morning.
Exercise, yeah. And I really thought, wow, but I actually think maybe we're doing ourselves a detriment if we don't value that.
Well, that's a concept we talk about, right? In the other podcast is your business only grows, or your career, to the extent that you are willing to.
Yeah.
Those blocks that you have internally will happen in your physical world too. Or what you manifest will hit a limit based on what your limit is internally. So the productivity and the success rate of your business is you. So what's the slow hustle and what's the fast hustle in the end? Right?
And I mean, for me, really, the slow hustle was the other night. Yes, I had a whole bunch of work I could have done, but I was really feeling a deep desire to go inward. So I ran a bath, put a candle on, turned off all the lights, and laid in the bath for an hour. And who says that is any less productive than all the work I could have done? Because the thinking time, the introspection, the reflection, the creating of a intention for my next day, unclouded by all of the pinging and the emails
busyness.
and the kind of seductive things over here that tell me that I should go to this or read this or do that. That time to just go no to the outside world and tune in potentially gave me more productivity than the hour of busyness might have given me.
Totally.
But for some of us, it can be a bit of a flipping of your perspective to go, okay, I'm clearly not finding time for myself at the moment for this, and this, but I want it. So why aren't I prioritizing that? Oh, okay, I'm seeing that doing that will take away from these other things that are important to me. Okay, how can doing these things serve that? And then
write your list.
Yeah.
Ask yourself that question and write the list down.
Because then
what are the benefits?
What are the benefits? How does it serve it? And then you're no longer seeing that taking away from it. It's actually beautifully serving it. And you can then create fortuitous meetings with people, because you're now starting to see the alignment between the two things that you previously saw were very separate.
But you're moving to equilibrium from polarization on that as well. Yeah, totally. I had something I was going to say then and I 100% can't think what it was now. So let's go back to this 7 areas thing, because I'm really interested in, we started this conversation by you saying I really want to talk about this concept of you can't necessarily always be empowered in all 7 areas.
I think it's just about what does it look like for you. So, in your spiritual area of life, what does that mean for you? Is that about creating space for reflection each day? Maybe it's just, okay, what can I be grateful for today? And a gratitude practice of 10 minutes a day.
Is it reading books?
Is it reading a book that inspires you? Is it a yoga class once a week? These are not...
Gardening?
Is it gardening?
Walking even? Yeah.
These are not... I'm not suggesting that these have to be big things. And in fact, even if they are very small things, they're just enough to feel fulfilled in that space. Similarly with the financial area, okay, how can I feel like I've got a little bit more control? Okay, I'm going to dedicate Monday evenings for an hour looking at all the bills I've got for the week, looking at my finances and just tweaking the structure a bit. And just, that's done. It's about bringing a little bit of structure to each of those areas. Not so much that it's stifling, but enough of a discipline that you bring to it so that it, one area doesn't have to completely go to shit for you to
That there's a
look at
level of
it.
empowerment there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because often what happens is one area goes to shit, for people, and then they go, oh no, I've really got to look at that. As opposed to developing a little bit of a discipline around all of them.
It's about the discipline, though, right, is in facing the discomfort.
Yeah. So why am I not
Yeah.
spending time on that? Why am I resisting
Which is
that?
actually when you're doing that as a conscious practice, you're choosing your challenge rather than it, in inverted commas, happening upon you.
Yes.
And then you're actually doing the work of smashing those blocks that you have built up there. You're actively seeking them for self-development rather than happening on
to you. Yeah. And I think also at the end of the day, like starting to develop, questions for yourself around, okay, what worked today? What didn't work today? What can I do that's going to help me get to where I want to go quicker? But that's not necessarily asking you to spend more time on it. It's simply just bringing some rigor or some efficiency around what you are doing. Because, there's just so many of us are busy, but we're busy going around in circles because we don't create processes for things. We just do the comfortable thing as opposed to, as you say, looking at those things that are uncomfortable and going into them, which I'm guilty of. Like I do that.
Oh my God, aren't we all, though?
Yeah.
But it is about bringing awareness to start off with. And even if you're aware that you're actively not going there, you're doing that in a way that you recognise you do have to.
Yeah. It's like, I know I'm so having that second bowl of ice cream, but I don't care. I'm having it. But, it's that same that you're bringing awareness to the decisions that lead up to that, or to the, things that lead up to you taking that action. And just being gentle on yourself enough to know, okay, probably wise for me to go into those uncomfortable feelings.
Or, even flipping it further into self-care. So why can't I bring myself to go there? What's underlying that? What do I need? What do I need in order to perform or do those things? Because I bet you there'll be underlying resource stuff there.
Yeah, not feeling like you've got enough there or whatever that is.
Yeah, or that you're scared, or that there's bigger belief systems going on that are holding you back from really owning that area of life. Don't you think?
I really think that, yeah. I love that idea. I mean, even this whole concept of the slow hustle, it still means it's not saying that you're not doing it. It's just saying that you're doing it with more intention and more on your own terms.
Which is the feminine.
Yeah.
That is the feminine.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Doing it on your own terms is intuition.
Yeah.
That's knowing yourself, your values, and the life you choose to lead.
In the way you choose to do it. It doesn't have to be the way that it might be prescribed that it has to be done.
But, right, you can't get there until you really know what your values are in life, I don't think.
No, you can't.
Because if you're not sure who you are and you're not sure what's really important to you and you're having trouble making decisions and all of that kind of murky stuff, you haven't got really consciously clear on what it is that creates a meaningful, extraordinary life for you.
Yeah, and you'll spend a lot of time seeking out outside opinions, doing what other people think that you should do.
Or hating on
stuff.
spending time doing stuff you really don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
Or you're procrastinating. You know that you're busy ignoring these things in the background. Like, that's all coming back to, I've almost stepped outside of myself rather than being really true
And grounded.
to what is going on for me and where I'm directing this extraordinary life. What is that quote? You only have one extraordinary life. What are you going to do with it, my darling, or something? There's some...
I don't know, but I'd love it.
I'll find it because I love it. I have it filed away somewhere. It's from that poet that I just adore. But it's that whole concept of you have this one extraordinary life. What are you going to do with that, the magnitude of that? Are you just going to flitter it?
Yeah.
Or are you really going to take it by the horns and lead this life for you?
It's such a massive call to action, isn't it? Because it really gets you to go, okay, what is important to me? Not what is important to what I think should be important. What do I really want? And for a lot of mothers, how often do you give yourself permission to ask that question and answer that question? Because it's so much about everybody else.
Yeah, totally. And busyness, we all get trapped into busyness. And I think sometimes we end up there because we're lacking the focus of where we actually want to go. So we're almost kind of cruising or coasting for a while.
Yes.
I mean, that feels there's a level of discomfort that goes with that. So we never just coast in life and have total comfort in doing that. There comes a point when that coasting starts to feel uncomfortable, or you start to be pulled or yearning for something else.
Yeah. There can be this sense of, like, I need to break free. I need to get congruent again.
And same with motherhood, like, that whole thing of I feel trapped here. Sure, your family is your highest priority and you love your kids to death. No one is discounting that.
Yeah.
No one. But if you have that feeling of I'm trapped, it's Groundhog Day, I'm cranky mum on the end of my tether, there is a certain level of that's you not listening to what you really deeply need to have a fulfilling life. And in order to really listen to that, do you need to put back in to be able to take those steps, to listen to yourself, to start to action them. Like, it's all kind of on this string together. And it's not that, all of a sudden you'll find this career that's really calling to you at a heart and all of a sudden you'll ditch your kids for it.
No.
Because you and I are living examples of that's not what happens.
That's right.
But what happens is you become the mum you want to be because you are a more fulfilled woman.
Yeah.
And you set the vibe for the centre of your family.
And you are a more awakened version of you.
So it's just a really big, I love that word, call to action. It's a really big call to action just to get congruent with what are you doing with this one extraordinary life of yours.
I don't know about you, but there's massive learnings for me in this podcast right now.
But I feel like there is in every podcast we do.
I know, yeah.
As crazy as it sounds, I do actually listen to us every week again, and I go, oh.
Yes. Particularly when we look at the truth is that any advice you give to anybody else is advice for yourself.
Totally.
Like, I really needed to hear that,
And I'm pretty sure I've caught up with you during that week and gone, was a cracker this week. You know what I got out of it? Which is ridiculous.
So thank you for listening to our own therapy. Our own
totally
personal
that,
therapy,
isn't it?
yeah.
So where do we want to go from here?
I really think that this comes back, like so many things do, to getting clear on your own values, to getting clear on what is you versus
before I
what
met
is
you,
everyone else.
Totally. Before I met you, I never really knew what values were. Like, I didn't really get it, which I find extraordinary because now I see how they play into everything.
Yeah.
But, I so get back then, like, even the word values seemed so... I don't know, like a blank.
And a bit abstract, and what does that even mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming there's people who were like me listening.
Yeah.
Can you maybe just explain a little bit more about values?
Yeah. I mean, I really think that, values is around, like, what does your life demonstrate are the things or the areas that are most important to you so that are intrinsic to who you are. That it might be that all of your time or your money or your thoughts or your dreams, that what's kind of coming into fruition for you in your life is aligned to your family or your children or growing in a certain career, or perhaps it's a certain theory of living that just really calls to you, and it's when you most feel like your heart opens. What is it that you read on certain topics and you just feel like it's calling to your spirit?
That's what I find interesting about it, right, is we all have this concept of the soul purpose and genius, and how the hell do you find it when you're all the way back here, right?
Yeah.
But I find this concept of values fascinating because it is almost a scientific approach to wheedling out what your soul purpose is in a way.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's always evolving. Like, it's kind of good, and I often do mine. I try and do my values sort of every 3 to 6 months.
Do you really?
Yeah, because when I notice when I start to feel a wrestle within myself, or I feel not myself, it can be because I'm injecting other people's values in, or that I'm having a bit of an identity crisis or a clash in values, which can happen with different life events. Sometimes if you've got a job change or, a big kind of transition point in your life, you'll kind of create an identity crisis in order to kind of go, okay, let's take stock here. Where are we at?
So this is when you start self-doubting or feeling like you're not enough or you're not empowered enough or you're not whatever in something.
Yeah, and sometimes I think, because if we talk about the concept of, we're always climbing quantums of awareness, whether we're aware of it or not, that then means that the things that might have been important to us 6 to 12 months or 2 years ago are not important in the same way that they were.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in podcasts where for me, part of healing my fertility issues was all about food for a certain amount of time. And it didn't matter what was happening, we were eating like nobody ate anything out of a packet. We were super, super clean. That's not an important value for me now.
Yeah, that's interesting because I hadn't quite solidified that concept of values shifting and changing. I kind of had in my head they're stagnant, but I totally get that what you're saying is they're not, because depending on our evolution depends on how that shifts and changes.
Yeah.
And it's a constant check-in with our authentic self through the quantums, through our evolution of new self.
Yes.
That those values can shift, and we need to constantly be checking in with that soul purpose.
I mean, your values come from your perception of something missing, so your voids. Your core voids never change. You will always be filling those through your set of values, but the form in which your values are being expressed will change.
So no, take that back because that sounds confusing.
So for instance, we know that for you, one of your big voids was that perception that you weren't heard or had space held for you as a child, right? So a consistent value for you has been personal kind of growth and providing for your family, being that rock.
Yeah.
Those have been two consistent values, but they've changed form.
Yes.
So the exact things in which you were interested in have changed, but they both link back, and they have always linked back to that void that you have as a result of your perception that those things were missing for you growing up.
Which is perfect because that's my sole purpose too.
That's right. Yeah, and it's what's birthed your genius. It's what's birthed your amazing wisdom in the areas that you pursue.
Yes.
And we all have that.
What are yours? What are yours?
What are my voids?
Yes, all of the above. Just do what you did for me.
Well,
it's
it's really easy to see other people's voids compared to your own.
Ah.
Yeah. And I've kind of been too afraid to work with a facilitator to actually get to the core of what my voids are, because they're so painful that they will bring you to your knees. Like, they're really quite painful. But I think part of mine is that idea of not having to conform. So, which is interesting because in some areas I conform a hell of a lot. Like, some people would think I have like a white picket fence, I conform that much. But that, like, in some areas of life, I really feel so strongly that to not have to follow the rules and to make your own and to live a life that exemplifies your own truth, not what you think it should be, and that inspires me to no end, and it's expressing itself through what we do here and through what I do with Suburban Sandcastles, through the way that I parent, through the way that I manage my finances and have a vision for not wanting to live shackled to a job that I don't like. Those are all the different forms that's expressed itself and will continue to express itself.
And in fact is your genius and soul purpose wrapped up in that. Isn't it extraordinary that our most painful experiences actually totally serve our soul purpose?
Yeah. And our soul purpose is always changing. Your purpose is always evolving. I don't know that your soul necessarily comes in and says, this is your purpose.
But I feel like there's a stream to it, though.
Yeah.
There's always a connection. Like, it's not one thing, but it is that one void played out in many
joining
different
of the
ways.
dots.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, for example, for me, I studied journalism, because I wanted to be able to tell stories. I wanted to be able to understand the way that the world works. I had an incredibly inquisitive mind. That totally serves where I am now. That ability to critically think and to not accept the status quo.
Doesn't that serve?
All of those things. And I couldn't have known then what it would lead to. And it's like, you can't join the dots looking forward. You only join them looking back.
So true.
So in some ways, you're always on purpose.
Yes.
You just don't know
what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can feel purposeful and inspiring if it's aligned to your values.
Yes.
And you get clear on that.
Yes.
When you ask yourself
and that
those
does
questions.
accelerate that growth process and that alignment.
And it accelerates your growth through the quantums too, because life will force you to grow, but you can accelerate that through your own actions and awareness and continually pushing past your thresholds of discomfort and limiting beliefs and all of those things.
So 7 areas then. So we've kind of digressed again, which we do so well.
We're great at that. It's one thing we're good at. We are good at digressing.
But we're coming back full circle
Yeah.
because this is the slow hustle, and we started this going, how do we talk about that concept of can you ever be totally empowered in the 7 areas?
Yeah, and I mean, this is another great example of me kind of going, yeah, everyone's talking about kind of hustling having to look like this, but why? But why does it have to look that way? Why do we have to maintain the status quo of the hustle having to be,
This
you
one
know,
particular way.
that you hustle so hard you get sick. You hustle so hard your eyes are falling out of your head.
Yeah.
You don't get, you're yelling at your family. You know, it doesn't have to look like that.
Cranky, resourceless mum.
Yeah,
comes
that's
out.
right.
Yeah.
You know, why do we have to accept that that's what it takes?
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you, right?
And I think it is, you know, creating space for the morning walk,
yeah.
you know, the evening reflection,
Yeah.
the, you know, uncomfortable playtime sometimes when you want to do other stuff, but
Yeah.
knowing that that playtime with your children
Yes.
is absolutely enriching both of you, even if it feels uncomfortable.
And in fact, if it feels uncomfortable, that's you smashing through that next limiting
That's
belief,
it.
which is actually totally serving
Yeah.
everything else.
And the thing is, the truth is, you need challenge to grow. Like, you know, your day is going to serve you both challenge and support in equal amounts.
yeah.
So, I don't know, I'd kind of like to choose the challenge of getting on the floor and playing for half an hour through my,
Yeah, discomfort.
with playing Lego. Playing Lego.
Hey
you
man,
know?
I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's hard.
So how does doing that serve the things that I really want to do?
Totally.
Continually asking those questions.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
And so I think it's about kind of getting clear on what's your recipe for all 7 areas. What would be fulfilling to you to tick those boxes in some small or large way to help you feel fulfilled and inspired? Is it the walk in the morning? Is it the
Well, it's going
gardening
through each
time?
area, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you want to say those areas again?
So it's spiritual, mental, vocational, physical, financial, family, and social.
And if you're feeling disempowered in any of those areas, that you actually start to open it up in whatever form that looks like for that area, that you potentially move into the discomfort, but you also start to prioritise doing things within that that previously were not part of your priority system, right?
That's it. Yeah. So what, you know, if you feel, so I guess of those 7 areas, which one feels most out of balance for you, and what action could you take that's most meaningful to you that would feel like it contributes to that area?
That's
If
beautiful.
it's family, if it's, you know, you feel like, you know, you're disconnected from your husband, what could you do that's a little bit uncomfortable, but that could put some energy into that to help bring that back into balance?
Although I'm having an inward smile on that particular example, because I do feel like there's a lot of, I feel disconnected from my husband, but really I feel disconnected from myself.
Yes.
And in fact, particularly I would say in intimate relationships, of which being in birth I have witnessed so many intimate relationships, it's quite profound. The more in connection and alignment you are with yourself, the less you notice that void with him.
With him. Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
And when you're wanting more connection with him, actually what you need to put in is more connection with you.
Because he's just your reflection.
Well, and beyond that, right, is that, you know, you're looking, it's almost like that white knight syndrome. We're looking for him to fill that void
Looking
of
for the saviour.
the saviour, the white knight, the desire, the I'm okay, the I'm enough, the to come from him.
Yes, that, you know, that I need someone to look after me, you need to look after me.
Yeah, or that for me to feel whole, I need to receive those things from you.
Yeah.
But in fact, when we give them to ourselves and we find a way to find ourselves desirable or feel desire within our bodies kind of tingling, or to feel connected with who we really are, our values, our purpose, our career that has us feeling lit up, we kind of sparkle, and that is an attraction that brings them in, and then we feel connected to them.
Yeah.
Or we bring them into our world with what's happened. You know, like it's disconnection with our partner, for me, from what I witnessed with women, is always, and I rarely give always, but always a disconnection for you, or there's a disconnect for you in your life and your alignment. And the way to work on your relationship is to work on you. Now, I know you agree with that.
I totally agree with that. I so agree with that. And I don't think that you can really grasp the truth of that until you begin to do that work.
Well, yeah, right. The only reason I can sit here and say that is because I've witnessed that profound ripple that when I just work on me, it shifts in such profound, fast ways that, you know, I just couldn't even conceive. Like, or had tried so hard to make him do in some way.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because you talk a lot about that you
do.
used to want him to be this.
Yeah.
Or make him behave in that way or eat that way or... Which was really trying to make something of yourself, make yourself something that you weren't.
And as soon as we shift, I mean, that ripple does, or like unconsciously and automatically happen in those intimate around us. So when we're talking about that relationship and family dynamic, as soon as we shift, that quantum shifts for everybody unconsciously.
Yes.
So there's some of that kind of passive healing happening when you work on yourself, but also when we work really deeply on ourselves, that mirror changes and the way that we perceive our intimate relationships changes, and therefore what we allow and receive in changes. And that changes your relationship.
And it's quite beautiful.
Oh, it's extraordinary. Oh my goodness. What is that? There's a partner listening somewhere.
It sounded like some kind of robot, but that was me accidentally pressing play on a podcast while I was trying to stop my mother from calling me. So there you go.
All right, it's time to wrap up then.
I think it is.
So connect with us on Facebook, Nourishing the Mother. Please rate us on iTunes and leave a review if you can. It does keep us rating so that more mums can find us on iTunes.
Yes.
Please share any podcasts with your friends and your tribes if they're really speaking to you. Please post messages to us or on our page so that we can continue to have these extraordinary conversations outside of these podcasts.
Yes. And I mean, you really create the fuel for what it is that we talk about here and what it is that we unpack here.
And we would love topic suggestions if you've got them.
Yes.
Definitely. And check out Nourishing the Mother
course.com.
Yeah, okay, I was going with the other one, but we can do both.
Yeah, we can.
So the course, sign up if you want to look. Just go check it out because it's it's been a bit of a work in process for us. So nourishingthemothercourse.com.au, just .com, and then it's nourishingthemother.com.au/7 tips for our tips on alignment, and the website will be rolling out soon for that.
Yes.
And Bridget, to connect with you,
suburbansandcastles.com, and Julie,
thepleasurenutritionist.com, which is rebranding as we speak.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Check it out.
Thanks, Bridgie. So we will see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.